Welcome to the No Name Brand Podcast. My name is Sashka Hanarappel, actress, singer, dancer, turned brand marketing, sales, and advertising strategist who brands your soul. And each week I bring you an inspiring person or message to help you discover your underdog, turn up your leadership notches, challenge the status quo, because you're fast and furious with a powerful message to share with the world. Thank you for taking time out with me today, and without further ado, let's get our creative and wisdom juices flowing. Gorgeous listeners, welcome back to this week's awesomeness. It's so good to have you here, and I do hope that you've had an incredible and prosperous week so far. Speaking of prosperity, our next guest is all over this topic. Our chica started her career off as an actress, and despite the starving artist stereotype, she certainly didn't adhere to this. Nope. Her outlook was that starving artists only exist because no one teaches them how to be freelancers and run their businesses like the CEOs that they are. Boom! So she started by helping her friends. As she learned more about financial planning and taxes, she realized, hang on everyone, without exception, in every industry, struggled with money. Ooh, less than 25% of Americans expect a comfortable income when they retire. And something inside of our guest snapped. She decided to raise that number by a mere 1% and help 3 million Americans retire rich by the year 2030. Shazam! Now that is a big goal, folks. Now, what came next was that she became an accountant and made financial growth her specialty. In less than a year, did you hear that? In less than a year, she owned her own firm and is changing the world's thoughts about accounting. About who? Accounting. Our next guest shows what it's like spending a lot of time pretending one's life is perfect, really hoping no one notices how messy your finances really are. Your mood is tied to your bank account. You party hard when your bank balance is up. You're depressed when it's down. Taxes, especially quarter taxes, always sneak up on you. You don't feel prepared. Sometimes you don't have enough cash to cover them. You have dreams of joining the Millionaires Club, but you secretly think, I'm not pretty, lucky, smart enough to get there. Hands up if this resonates with you. Careful if you're driving. Because our next guest is here to sort this shite out once for all. She's the world's most enthusiastic, resourceful, and dedicated money mentor for non-traditional entrepreneurs and helps business owners solidify, that's a big word, their financial foundation so that they can experience exponential growth in an authentic and sustainable way. So please, do put your hands together for the one, the only, Katherine Pomerantz. Hello, Katherine.
Hello. I've done a few of these, and I have to say that's the best introduction I've ever received.
Awesome. I love putting them together. Love putting together. Sometimes I have a little bit of a challenge, and this was so much fun. I'm like, oh my God, this is so cool. Can't wait to meet this woman. So share with us where you are in the world today.
I currently live in Oklahoma in the United States.
Oklahoma. There's a song about that, isn't there?
There is a song about that. They're very proud of this song.
How does it go? Katherine?
It's Oklahoma where the wind comes sweeping down the plains. I don't remember the rest of the words.
I wouldn't have a clue, but I know there's a famous song about it.
They play it on the university's bell tower, actually, where I live. They play it every hour, that song.
Oh my God. Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
The lyrics aren't playing, but the tunes there. Oh, stop. Oh, this is cool. So share with us. How do you stop tying your mood to your bank account? Partying hard when your bank balance is up, depressed when it's down, and making pathways to join the Millionaires Club. How do you wave your magic wand here?
Yeah, there's so much to unpack, right, when it comes to emotion and money. And I kind of come at it from a really different perspective, which is funny, right? Because we both have artistic backgrounds. We are all about the passion and the money and the heart-centered business owner who's just going to like go out there and change the world. And that is totally my jam. But I think that when it comes to being the CEO, you have to learn how to be a little dispassionate, learn how to have a good system in place. So even when you're feeling icky, especially around your finances, it still gets done. And so I have an acronym that I use to teach people like what money actually is. And it frees you up a little bit to be like, oh, okay, if that's all that money is, I don't need to stress so much about it. I can forgive myself that this is a challenge for me. And I can go back to focusing on the fun, passionate parts of my business. And so I always tell people to let money work for them. And that's LET. And that's because money at its core is three things. It is a language, it is an energy, and it is a teammate. Yeah. And this is what I mean by that. Like, first and foremost, money is a language. And like any language, like English or like German or like French, you're not born knowing how to speak it. And money is literally a language. It has all these weird terms. It's got all this fancy jargon that you have to learn, especially when you go into business. There's even more weird terms related to money that are very, very important to knowing business and being successful in it. It's okay that you don't know them. It's okay that you need to bring on a translator or that you're going to take some time to study the language. And most people, you start learning a language when you're a toddler and then you're fluent in it, and nobody has that advantage with money. So first and foremost, forgive yourself if you're not fluent in how money talks. Secondly, money is an energy. And I mean that, again, literally. I always say literally, right? But this is actually what money is. We're talking about what money actually is. And money is an energy. It's in its name, currency. It's a current. It's a give and a take. It's a flow. And this is because money is nothingness. It's based on nothing. Nobody in the world uses the gold standard anymore. We all just agree that this money has this value that it does. It's nothing but dots and zeros in some bank's like database server somewhere. I mean, it's nothingness. And that's really, really freeing to realize, because if it's just the value that we've assigned it, then it's just us giving and taking from each other. It's just showing appreciation for something that's helping us. That's all money is. That's what I mean by an energy, because an energy exchange is always positive. Think about it. It's like when you smile at a stranger, you give them your energy. When you're flowing down a river, it goes through a dam, it's creating electricity, which is all different types of energy. And when that energy gets stopped, that's when money becomes difficult or blocked. And that's when it becomes painful. So we just have to learn how to kind of let the flow keep happening and let money keep talking to us, because it's a language. And that's why the last thing about money is money's a teammate. And I say teammate and not resource, because it's going to help you build something incredible, but you have to treat it like a person. You have to treat it like one of your employees. Money, but like it or not, you have a relationship with money. And that's why this unpacking the emotional side of money is so painful and so difficult to do in a podcast interview like this, because it's incredibly personal. We have baggage about money. Oh yeah. I mean, we've got baggage about money because of how we were raised, because of what our parents did, because of what our partner does, because of what's happened to us in our lives. And that's so hard to just take away. So you have a relationship with money, like it or not. And you got to work to make it a positive one. You've got to nurture and care for that money like you would a teammate, like you would an employee. So that way they can come back and tell you things about your business. Money, again, it talks to you. The better you are with your bookkeeping and your finances, the better you're going to have a holistic picture of what's going on in your business. And if you can accept the fact that, hey, it's just an energy, and hey, it's just value that I'm exchanging, and hey, it's just talking to me, it becomes a lot less stressful to deal with. It becomes like, oh, okay, I'm going to find the right translator to help me understand these numbers, and I'm going to listen to them, and I'm going to know exactly where my business is hurting. I'm going to know exactly where my business is doing well. Because the money, the numbers, they don't lie. As long as you're paying attention to them, they're going to tell you everything you need to know to support that big goal and to go after growth.
I love that.
First and foremost, it's like you have to start with that idea, so that way you can kind of free up your headspace enough to take the actions. And a lot of people, there's a lot of different things when it comes to money mindset or financial advice. And it's very personal. And so I like to just tell people, just start. You're not going to get over your emotional like the emotional ties you have to money quickly. And even recognizing, if you can pin down and go through coaching or go through therapy and pin down exactly what your emotional ties to money are, that's fantastic. You can then recognize when they're cropping up, but that still doesn't help you take action in your business. And that's why I ultimately became an accountant, is because I was like, we're missing the practical side of this conversation. We need to pair the emotional and the practical. And so I love the bookkeeping and the day-to-day grind of stuff. And I've got all these crazy fancy systems that automate things and make it super easy and paperless and painless. But you don't need all those things to get started. Just open your computer. Just turn the computer on. Just decide, okay, I'm going to add all these receipts into an Excel spreadsheet. And if that's all you can take, turn it off and set it down. You started. Don't get overwhelmed by those numbers yet. Just enter them. Just do the data entry and then be done. And then come back and be like, okay, the data entry's done. I'm now just going to look at it. And again, money's just talking to us. Money's just trying to help us. And we're just going to kind of get used to looking at these numbers and seeing what am I actually spending? What am I actually making? And even if you don't know the fancy words like profit, like what's left over, or if you don't know how to break down cost of goods or profit margins and all those jargony terms, simply looking at that flow of money, that give and that take, you're going to start to realize there's patterns, and you're going to start to diagnose your own business and your own self without the next steps. The next steps are coming, but literally you just have to just get started. And I've been breaking it down. I'm serious when I say, hey, if it's stressful, just turn on the computer. Great, you did it. Great, now just open Excel. Great, you did it. Those little tiny steps, no matter where you're coming at emotionally, make it so much easier just to get started. That's all you have to focus on.
Because you mentioned something now with the profit, and one of your biggest pet peeves is the 6-7 figure ads, one of mine as well. Promising as they are, revenue is not a measure for your business success. And even if your business is making multiple 7 figures, how much of that are you keeping, aka profit? What's going out? How much is being invested in your future versus being wasted on expenses? Are there assets, or do you have adequate cash flow? Or are you about to declare bankruptcy because you can't pay for your bills on time? How do you propose educating entrepreneurs to look at reality rather than the illusion, and to make it more accessible as soon as you switch on that computer and open the Excel sheet? Where should they be focusing on? I know it's a very complex, nothing's just like, oh, look, there's just one step. There are many steps. How do you go about this? How do you feel about this?
Yeah, that was an incredibly great question, first and foremost. So I'm very happy to dig into it. The thing that you need to start with, and it's funny, right? I'm an accountant and we're going to talk a lot about heart-centered things today. That's the crux of it, right? I mean, we're humans. So you got to have that in place to move forward. You've got to start with your goals, first and foremost. Why are you in business? It helps if it's a personal goal. And we hear that all the time. But again, money is just a resource. It's only going to do what we tell it to. It's only going to do what we use it for. So you have to know where you're going. You have to know why you're making that money. A big goal for me right now is I want to get my husband a new kitchen. He loves to cook and he's confined in this small kitchen, and I don't like that for him. So a big reason I am in business and I'm making money is to get my husband a better kitchen. And there's a lot of positive emotional motivation in that. And then it kind of comes down though to okay, but what is the purpose of my business? So I've got a great personal reason to be making money. So, okay, I want to pay myself, but what is my business doing? And you've already touched on my business. I'm in the business of making people rich, which is fantastic, because if you're rich, you can take care of all your personal goals. You can be generous to your friends and family. You can be generous to the community around you. As a business owner, you are uniquely positioned to be a community leader and to affect votes and to start programs that help people. And that aspect of my business is why I love what I do. I love entrepreneurs. I love business owners. I love the idea of it. I love how small business affects the economy. And that is such a big, awesome, fireworks go off in my heart and my head when I think about it. And having that reaction to what I'm doing keeps me focused on my business in a unique way. I'm only going to spend money that supports that ultimate goal. So yeah, that marketing tool might be really shiny, but is it going to reach my ideal clients, or is it going to help me at the end of the day have the money I need to invest in these more charitable projects that I want to do, or invest for scholarships sometimes to people who can't afford to hire a full-on accountant, but they just have such a good idea and I know they're going to be successful. I'm like, hey, I'm going to give you a scholarship this year, but I have to have the money to do that. I'm still going to pay myself. So that's an example of it's got to stay personal, but it's got to stay personal in a way that is driving your business forward. So when you start to look at your money, that's the reason that you need profit. And we should break down what profit is. Profit is the money left over after revenue and expenses, but it's also the money left over after paying yourself. No matter what type of business entity you are, you deserve a good salary. So that is not in your profit. The profit is your business's money. It's the money your business gets to keep. It's the money that you're going to, if you were a corporation, right? It's money you could pay out to your investors and thank them for supporting your company. Or it's the money you're going to reinvest in the company and expand. It's going to go towards research and development. It's going to go towards hiring a new great teammate. And oftentimes that takes a lot of cash up front that you don't have. And you can go out and acquire it in different ways, but it's great if you can fund it yourself. And that's why it's important to have profit. I actually work with my clients. There's a fantastic book called Profit First by Spouse. I don't remember how to pronounce his last name, but I can give you the link. Sorry, Mike, if you're listening, I'm so sorry. But that's a fantastic book because it teaches you how to arrange your money in a budget, which again is a big, scary word. People get so uptight about a budget. But all a budget is it's a plan. It's a plan for how your money is going to be spent. Real life is never going to match that plan because you're right. You mentioned, how do we focus on what's really happening? Well, you've got your dream and that's going to go to your budget. In a perfect world, I'm going to give out, 10 scholarships because I'm going to make so much money and I'm going to pay myself 7 figures. Obviously base it off of what's really happening in your business, but that's an example. And that's what the budget is. It's just a plan. So when you look at your real numbers and you start breaking down what you spent in each of those budget categories, then you can tell, okay, did I meet the goal? Did I not meet the goal? And you'll very specifically be able to tell, okay, where did I not meet the goal? And that's why I love budgets. But on every budget, you should have a category called profit. You should plan for profit. It shouldn't be something that's left over. It shouldn't be something you desperately hope you have. It should be something that I am going to be profitable. And so I'm going to take 5% of anything I make and it's going to go into profit and it's on my budget so that I know not to overspend because I need that money. I need that money to grow. I need that money for my big goals. The company should be funding itself. As a business owner, as an entrepreneur, you get really invested in what you're doing. Even I do. You can hear how passionate I am about what I do. I love it.
Sure can.
Yeah. But I am not my business. And that is so hard to make that distinction, especially when you're a service provider, because you kind of are the business. You're the labor of the business, but you are not your business. And your personal goals and your personal money needs to be separate from the business goals and the business money. The business should be taking care of itself. Like your money, it should be its own teammate. It should be supporting you in your lifestyle and helping you and coming together to drive your team. And it should be the goal that keeps the team together and working hard when you've got employees. And yeah, you can be the good leader of that team, but again, the business is not you. So that's why you need to be profitable so that the business can pay for itself. And I love the Profit First book and I love that whole mentality because it kind of trains people to think about money in the way I was already describing. Money is that teammate. It's a language. So we need to start listening to it. We need to start taking care of it. So we're going to be profitable. We're going to plan for profit and we're going to have a budget because even picking the categories that go on your budget are very specific to your industry, to what you do, to what is important to you in your business. Picking those categories, just that first step. And again, I like to break things into really tiny steps. Just picking the categories that should show up on your budget is going to direct where you focus because what we're focusing on is what we're driving towards. So even knowing to pay attention to these certain numbers means that, oh wait, we're actually paying attention to these certain numbers. And when you pay attention to something, you naturally sort of are like, oh, whoa, that's not good. So how do I fix it? But with a good budget in place, you kind of already know. You're like, oh, well, I've been overspending in this one particular category. Maybe, your advertising costs are really high, but your rate of return isn't very good. It's not increasing revenue as much as something else. But you notice you're only spending a couple of things on Facebook ads, so you're spending less, but you're getting bigger leads. Like things like that you can't know unless you've got good bookkeeping and you've got those budget categories and you're paying attention to those things. And I can dive into like 100,000 examples. I love accounting. But I hope that gives people an idea of how this whole process starts to work. A lot of people think accounting and they think taxes. They think about, well, okay, I got to pay my taxes, which you do. But you got to do that once a year. What else are you doing with your money that's helping drive you towards your goal? Like tax planning is super important. It's part of that whole profit first mindset. It's how you keep track of the expenses because you can't get away from paying taxes. But that's only one category on your budget. What else is your money supposed to go towards?
Well, I find that in the business, when you have your profit, you have your return on investment, and a very important element is cash flow. Do you want to go dive a little bit into cash flow?
Sure, yeah. Cash flow is definitely related to profit. And this is where you get into like the ooey gooey, like, like more advanced businessy things. So if I get too jargony, like please cut me off and be like, whoa, Catherine, define that for people. But cash flow, again, money's an energy. We already touched on that. And money is literally a give and a take. And that is what cash flow is cash flow is the money coming in and the money coming out. So it's related to profit, but you can actually be profitable without any cash. And that's a dangerous situation to find yourself in. Let's give an example, actually, before we get too far into this. So say someone's their first year in business and they made $500,000, which holy moly, 1 year in business, that's incredible revenue. That's so good. So on paper, this guy's looking great. But okay, again, revenue's not profit. You could have spent all that money. You could have never paid yourself. Where did that money go? Well, okay, let's go file down. Let's go to the bottom of the profit and loss report. And at the bottom of the profit and loss report, they have profit of, let's say, $10,000, which again, holy moly, your first year in business, you're profitable? What? That's incredible. This business is literally killing it. They're doing so well. But I'm going to flip over to their balance sheet. And this is a different type of financial report. So you've got the profit and loss report, which shows you revenue, expenses, and then profit. The balance sheet is similar, but it's going to show you what you own, what the business owns, your assets, right? Your cash, your land, everything that is something you can sell off and have as cash again. Then it's going to show you what you owe. So who do you owe money to? Like, do you have a credit card? What outstanding invoices do you need to pay? What do you owe your employees? And there I'm going to look, oh, okay, so you've got wages payable because it's approaching the end of the month and you got to pay your employees and you've got $9,000 in wages payable. That's not a big deal. You're making a ton of revenue, right? But I'm going to go up and look at your bank account, which is at the top of that balance sheet, right? I'm going to go back and look at your assets. You only have $1,000 in the bank and payroll is due Friday and you owe your employees $9,000. Okay, so you made a bunch of money. You are profitable. So where did that money go? Why can't you pay your employees right now? And now, okay, that's a scary situation. There's so many things we can dig into. It's like, okay, who do you need to collect money from? Who owes you money? You know, are they all going to pay this week? Is that not a big deal? You know, et cetera, et cetera. There's all that give and the take for the real world. But that's a scary feeling to not be able to pay your employees or to be worried about paying your employees or to be worried about paying your bills on time. That's related to cash flow. And so you've got this company that on paper should have no issues because it's making tons of money and they've got money left over after expenses. But for whatever reason, the money isn't flowing the way it should. Maybe their collection terms aren't very good. Maybe, you know, they give their customers 30 days to pay and they are spending money faster than that 30 days money is coming in. So yeah, they can count all that money as revenue because it's theirs. It's owed them. It's on paper. It's their money, but it's not actually cash yet. So if they had a big expense come up and they had to put on a credit card, that hurts your cash flow. And that's one of the ways you can solve cash flow is one, look at collections terms and follow up. Did I actually collect money from everyone I owe? Two, it's looking, okay, where is money going? So say this business was a product-based business. Let's go back to the start of the year. They had $10,000 worth of inventory. And now this year they have $20,000 worth of inventory. Well, they need $9,000 to pay their employees, right? In this example we just gave. So do you actually need $20,000 of inventory now? Or was that an expense you shouldn't have done? But maybe you do, because maybe, you know, it's just flying off the shelves and you have to have that much buffer. You're going to sell out and sales are going to stop. Or maybe you found something on a super good discount and you were able to buy a ton of stuff wholesale. So, okay, yeah, it's in holding, but it was such a good deal. Like, yeah, still a smart business decision. But that's related to cash flow. And that's kind of one that you've got to be able to look at those and pay attention to those numbers and then be like, okay, did I spend this in a smart way? Or, okay, I should dump this inventory really, really fast so I can get the money to pay my employees. There's other things you can do related to cash flow. You can take out things like lines of credit or go after a bank loan, or maybe that's a sign you need to find some investors. So that way you have a cash buffer again and you can just keep a set amount of money in your account. And I did say that this was related to profit first, and it is, because if you are profitable, this is something that profit can go towards, is to building up your own cash buffer. But there shouldn't be a huge cash buffer in the account. Like there should be enough, but not a lot. And that's very, very vague. But you can't get more specific than that because it is, again, so related to the business and to the industry and to the size. You know, like Google, for example, is going to have a much bigger cash buffer than I am. They're going to need it. They've got a lot more expenses going in and out of their operating account all the time. But having that cash buffer is going to help with cash flow so that way you can always pay bills on time. And that's the big question then. It's like, that's where it really comes to, we're a startup, but we need more cash just to start. That's a big question with startups is cash flow, because you've got research and development, but you've also got marketing. You've got hiring your team. When you're trying to scale or launch a new product, cash flow becomes a big deal because, right, you're going to launch a podcast, for example. Well, okay, I've got to get a sound editor and I've got to invest in sound equipment and I've got to book guests and pay for advertising and pay for a new website. And none of that's getting a return yet. It takes a long time for your podcast to grow in a way that is showing profit. So you've got to be able to float those things. And that's what profit, like saving your own profit and making sure your company's profitable can help do it. That's why you can have that cash buffer. But it can be also like, okay, maybe I do want a line of credit or a small business loan. And maybe I do want to go after an investor and take my company bigger because I'm going to bring on a partner who's going to help fund like a really big project. That again, like we're talking like business things, right? Like, oh, that seems so intimidating. But if you've been paying attention to all the things I brought up the first time, just paying attention to your books, recording expenses, keeping track of your income, by the time you're at that level and you're ready to do that, you're going to already know what to talk about. Investors and banks love to hear about profit. They love to look at your balance sheet. They have to see those things if you're going to get a loan. And it's going to be really accurate. It's going to be really clean. And you're going to be able to defend yourself. Because like if you're going to go after an investor, right, they're going to have questions. But if you've been paying attention to your bookkeeping and you understand the flow of the money and you can talk to them coherently about why the money's being spent the way it is and what your plan is to make more money, right? Focus on those goals. You know this is going to work. The investor, even if right now you're not the most beautiful business they've ever seen, they might jump on board because like, hey, this person knows what they're talking about and they do have a good plan and my money would help that. Yeah, I'm going to get on board with that. Of course I want to do that.
Yeah,
so,
and that could be product or service.
Yeah, that doesn't matter what you're doing. Investors are a little bit commoner in a product-based business because, again, you've got much bigger startup costs. You have to actually make a bunch of the product to sell it. But yeah, that does your type of business, that is universal. That flow of finding an investor and finding a bank loan, that doesn't matter what you're doing. That process is always the same. And you got to have clean books. And you got to know what you're talking about because they could even if you've got beautiful books, for example, but you don't know what you're talking about, they're going to be like, hey, they just lucked out, but we're not going to invest in them. Like, exactly. We don't trust that this is going to stay.
Oh, speaking of staying, that's half an hour gone. I just cannot believe how quick time flies. Seriously, I'm just like, oh God. So every single freaking episode, I will be like, I cannot believe that's half an hour. So at the end, as we're nearing the end, I'm asking all my guests the same two questions. And the first one being, how do you want to change the world or challenge the world doing what you do?
I want small business to be bigger. I'm on a personal goal, right, of helping 3 million Americans retire rich by 2030. But I 100% believe the way to do that is to sponsor and support entrepreneurs because one, the entrepreneur can get rich. But they're also going to be community leaders and be able to give to charity. And they're going to be good bosses. They're going to create jobs. It's estimated that entrepreneurs keep 2% of the wealth that they generate. Wow. And there are whole industries that did not exist until somebody invented it. A good example is Netflix, the streaming video service. But the subscription model itself, they kind of started that. They started by mailing you DVDs. And now how many things can you get in the mail? You can get like food deliveries, you can get razors, you can get clothes, you can get makeup, and it's mailed to you. They proved that model worked. And now they're doing streaming. So if you're a software thing, you're now in a subscription model. That was somebody's idea originally. And look how much wealth it's spreading around the world. Look how much money it's spreading around the world. So first and foremost, I'm going to help small businesses, but I'm also going to get on and do a lot of teaching about, okay, how do you handle the money you're making? Because that, again, relates back to the starving artist thing. You can make plenty of money, but if you don't know how to use it to support your goals, you're going to end up cash strapped and feeling really stressed your whole life, even if you become a millionaire.
That is so true.
And I don't want that for people. So
I love it. We like it when you're fixing it. We need more people like you fixing that. That's amazing. So 3 of my values, I'd like to hear your take on 3 of my values. So fill in the blanks. Creativity for you is?
It's Genesis. It's how you create those opportunities. It's how you help people. It's how you have fun. It's wealth building.
Love that. Wealth building, creativity. Like that. Wisdom for you is?
Ooh, knowing when to listen and knowing who can help you. Knowing when you need help.
Oh, that's good. Yeah. Passion for you is?
Oh, everything. Why I do what I do. The best feeling, a good feeling.
Oh, I love that. I love that. And we definitely got so much out of that. There's so much more that we could speak about. I was like, what software should we be using? And should people, entrepreneurs, outsource their books and everything? So many questions. We'll definitely be getting you on the show again to go a little bit more into detail about this. because a lot of, especially service-based entrepreneurs, are very hesitant to outsource or take care of their books because they think they're too small. So with you wanting to change the world or challenge the world doing what you do and helping these businesses, helping them become rich, not just in money and energy, but also in the language. So knowing how to communicate with us. Katherine, thank you so much for being with us here on the podcast and for sharing your wisdom and your creativity and passion with us. It's been a pleasure listening to you and all your knowledge. And if you want to find out more about Katherine, you can look in the show notes, what her favorite book, where she's on social media, her free gift for you on her website. And she also has a podcast, so you can get listening on that as well. Thank you so much, Katherine.
Thank you. I had a lot of fun.
Awesome. And for the listeners, I look forward to speaking to you again next week. We're going to have a lot of fun again with our next guest. Stay tuned. Have an awesome day. Take care, everyone. Bye-bye. Dang, that was just supercalifragilisticexpialidocious. I enjoyed having you on board, and please do me and you a favor. Head on over to iTunes, SoundCloud, or Stitcher. Click subscribe, and a super bonus, leave your review and you stand a chance of being announced and advertised on the show. I'm always striving to ensure that your brand is uplifted and empowered. Remember, done is better than perfect. So be sure to subscribe, leave a review, and send in your feedback too. You're the absolute best. Keep rocking.